They called me back to the quartery at 0400, which told me everything before anyone said a word. Nobody wakes a 63-year-old retired engineer at 0400 unless the ship is already in trouble and the young ones have run out of ideas. I'd served 31 years on vessels like her, patched hulls, rewired comm arrays, slept under consoles more nights than I slept in a bunk. Retirement had given me a garden, a bad knee, and more time than I knew what to do with. So when the transport landed outside my door with 2 armed escorts and an apologetic young lieutenant, I didn't ask many questions. I just got my coat. The bridge was too quiet when they brought me up. Not the calm kind of quiet. The kind where everyone is holding their breath at the same time. Admiral Thessaly Corin stood at the center of it, silver-skinned, ice-pale eyes, the kind of stillness that comes from a person trying very hard not to show fear. She didn't look at me right away. She was watching a screen where half her bridge crew sat slumped at their stations, eyes open, humming, actually humming, low and tuneless, all of them on the same note, like a hive that had lost its queen and didn't know it yet. "Engineer Voss," she said. "Thank you for coming. You said it was urgent. I figured I'd skip the tea." She almost smiled. Almost. The trouble, she explained, had a name, though nobody liked saying it out loud. The Cantor. A broadcaster. A rival cult leader. Something between a politician and a him, who'd been layering a signal into every long-range transmission for the better part of 2 weeks. It rode under the words. Beneath the music, the crews piped through the corridors during long watches, and it did something to a mind that none of her specialists could explain, only describe. A slow pull, a softening of loyalty, until a soldier who'd sworn an oath 3 years ago started humming along with strangers instead. 11 crew on the quartery were under it now. 2 more ships in the fleet had gone dark entirely, not destroyed, just drifting, their crews calm and smiling and humming, refusing every order that wasn't the Cantor's. Our finest signal engineers have spent 6 days trying to filter it, Corin said. Tracing the carrier wave, building counter-algorithms, layering dampening fields over every channel. Nothing holds. The moment we patch one frequency, the signal slides to another, like water finding a crack. You called every specialist in the fleet. Every one. I have 3 doctorates of subspace harmonics standing in that lab right now, and they tell me it cannot be filtered with current technology. They're not wrong, I said. You can't filter water out of water. She looked at me like I'd said something either very stupid or very useful, and hadn't decided which yet. I asked to see the affected crew first. Up close it wasn't sinister, which somehow made it worse. They looked content. A young weapons officer named Bray sat with his hands folded in his lap, humming that same flat note, smiling faintly at nothing. I put 2 fingers to his wrist, steady pulse, warm skin. A person, just, elsewhere. Has anyone tried just talking to them? I asked. Of course. They don't respond to anything but the signal. I didn't ask if they responded. I asked if anyone talked to them. Corin's aide started to explain that there were established protocols for this sort of contamination, and I let him talk while I knelt down next to Bray and hummed his note back to him, just to see what it would do. His eyes flicked toward me. First time anyone's eyes had moved in 2 days, according to the medic standing nearby with her mouth open. That told me what I needed to know. The Cantor's signal wasn't fighting their minds. It was lonely-proofing them, giving them something to belong to when nothing else around them did. The fleet's brightest engineers had spent a week trying to out-engineer a feeling. You can't jam a feeling with better math. You can only offer the person a better one. One of the doctorates, a sharp young man named Idrin, the kind who'd clearly never been told no in a lab before, tried to explain to me, slowly, as if I were the one who didn't understand frequencies, that the Cantor's signal had already been mapped down to the decimal point. He had charts. He had simulations running on 3 separate consoles. He was, by every measure that mattered to him, right about all of it. You've mapped the wave, I said. Have you mapped the want? He blinked at me like I'd asked him to map the color blue. People don't follow a tune because the math is elegant, I told him. They follow it because it's the only thing in the room that seems to know they exist. Your filters keep asking the signal to leave. Nobody likes being told to leave. You have to give them somewhere better to go first. He didn't argue. He just looked, for the first time since I'd come aboard, like a much younger man than his credentials suggested, and went quiet enough to actually listen. I asked Corin for an old analog transceiver. Not the fleet's gleaming comm arrays, but the kind of beat-up backup unit that gets shoved in a maintenance locker because nobody trusts it anymore. She found me one in under 10 minutes. Dusty, vacuum-tubed, the kind of equipment a modern specialist would laugh at. "This is 40 years out of date," she said. "That's the idea. The Cantor's signal is built to ride modern carrier waves. Clean ones. The kind your fancy arrays put out. This thing hums dirty. It doesn't fight the broadcast. It just doesn't speak its language." I patched the old set into the corridor speakers, the same ones piping the contaminated broadcast through the ship, and instead of trying to cancel the signal, I let mine sit right alongside it, off-key, warm, full of the crackle and hiss that real machines make when they've been worked hard and loved. Anyway, I didn't sing anything clever. I just hummed the same kind of tune my own father used to hum fixing engines when I was a girl. Slightly flat, entirely human, the sound of somebody actually being there. It took 4 minutes for Bray's hum to bend toward mine, instead of the Cantor's. 4 minutes for his shoulders to drop the careful stillness, and just be a tired young man again, blinking like he'd woken from a nap he didn't remember taking. By the half hour, all 11 crew were back, dazed, embarrassed, asking what they'd missed. By the hour, the 2 drifting ships had picked up my little dirty signal on their own old backup channels and started drifting home. Corin watched the whole thing from the doorway without saying a word. When it was over, she didn't call it a triumph. She just looked tired and relieved, and like she was doing arithmetic she didn't enjoy. 3 doctorates, she said finally. 6 days. You did it in under an hour, with spare parts and your father's tune. They were solving an engineering problem. It was a people problem wearing an engineering problem's coat. I've fixed enough of both to tell the difference. She was quiet a moment. "Why didn't you say something on your way up here about the diagnosis?" "Because nobody asked me to diagnose anything. They asked me to fix the radio, so I fixed the radio. I expected that to be the end of it. A thank you, a transport home. My knee complaining the whole way. Instead, 2 days later, she called the whole bridge crew to formation, had my old service record pulled from the archive, and read it aloud herself. Every ship I'd kept running past its scrap date. Every system I'd patched with parts that shouldn't have worked. 31 years. Nobody outside engineering had ever bothered to look up. Then she did something I genuinely didn't expect. She had them salute me. Not the polite courtesy salute junior officers give a retiree out of habit, but the long, full one, the kind reserved for people who'd actually earned it. 11 crew members standing straighter than I'd seen anyone stand in years, Bray among them, looking like he meant it. I didn't know what to do with my hands, so I just nodded back, the way you do when someone hands you a wrench you weren't expecting, and you take it out anyway, because that's simply what you do. Corin offered me a permanent post after that. Chief engineer, fleet advisor, whatever title I wanted. I told her I'd think about it, which we both understood meant no, not really, but thank you. My garden was waiting, and so was my bad knee, and there's a particular kind of peace in fixing one good thing and going home before anyone makes a fuss about it. But I did leave them the old transceiver, told them to keep it in the maintenance locker where it belonged, dust and all, in case the fancy equipment ever needed reminding what a real voice sounds like. They still hum that tune sometimes on long watches now, slightly flat, on purpose. Corin tells me it's spread to 3 other ships. I didn't write it down anywhere. I never write anything down. Some fixes you just have to pass along the same way you got them, humming, off-key, and meant.